Now, at a time when much of the Northern Hemisphere is battling extreme temperatures and lack of rainfall, there's a warning that the El Niño weather pattern is set to intensify over the next 3 months, contributing to continued heat waves and, in many parts of the world, drought. It's from the World Meteorological Organization. The El Niño weather pattern warms surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean, triggering worldwide changes in winds, atmospheric pressure and rainfall patterns, and pushing warmer overall global temperatures. The UN chief Antonio Guterres warned that the effects of El Niño, combined with global warming due to man-made climate change, were causing apocalyptic conditions. And he called again for the world to end its dependency on fossil fuels.
2 months ago, I warned that El Niño was arriving on our doorstep. Now it is inside the house and turning up the heat. But according to the latest science, this is only a warm-up act. New forecasts released today by the World Meteorological Organization provide a stark picture of the period from August through October. El Niño is strengthening, adding fuel to a planet already on fire.
His warning comes as Europe has been ravaged by wildfires this summer after successive record-breaking heat waves. France and Spain have won some respite after bringing major blazes under control. The Greek authorities have ordered the partial evacuation of a suburb west of the capital, Athens, after a forest fire broke out on a nearby mountain. And explosions have reportedly been heard from Mount Pokylo area, allegedly involving power grid infrastructure in a forest. Gale force winds have fanned the flames and hampered the efforts of water-dropping aircraft. More than 100 firefighters and 5 helicopters are tackling the blaze. Latest figures from the Met Office here show England and Wales are on course to record their hottest July for 190 years. Just take a look at these satellite images. The first shows vegetation in May with green fields and grasslands. And this is after weeks of high temperatures and little rain in July. The light brown indicating extensive vegetation stress. Wildfires have been a feature of the hot summer, and in Suffolk, good progress is being made dealing with a fire at Dunwich Heath, but emergency crews expect to be on site for at least the next 48 hours. Meanwhile, Hungary's Prime Minister Péter Magyar says water levels in the Danube are expected to remain too low to restart the country's only nuclear plant for several weeks. The PAX facility normally produces nearly half of Hungary's electricity. Its coolers rely on water from the river. The plant is currently operating at less than half of its normal capacity and is expected to be completely shut down on Monday as water levels drop further. Well, joining us now is Erin Sikorsky, Director of the Centre for Climate and Security and the International Military Council on Climate and Security. Thank you very much, Erin, for taking the time to talk to us. All the signs are really worrying, alarm bells ringing everywhere, someone said yesterday, and we heard those warnings again from Antonio Guterres. Do you think that governments are listening in the way they should be and treating this with the seriousness that it deserves?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think governments are seeing the risk with their own eyes every day across Europe, as you indicate, whether it's energy security, water security, the wildfires, but they're not acting yet at the level needed to manage these risks. Just yesterday, the UK foreign minister was in Spain and in France, and they signed statements together on climate change as a national security issue. But those statements didn't say anything about the investments that are needed in adaptation and resilience to manage these risks. Absolutely, governments need to keep cutting fossil fuels, turning away to prevent the long-term dangers, but we also need short-term investments right now because, as Guterres said, it's in the house. The threat is here.
On the one hand, you have the situation with the Iran war highlighting the continued dependence on fossil fuels, and environmentalists would say the need, therefore, to move towards clean energy. But because of the pressure, the cost of living crisis that people in many countries are feeling, certain governments are still saying, well, we need to look at further exploration of oil and gas. So you have this tension, don't you, between governments knowing what needs to be done to help in the longer term and what they need to do in the short term. How do you get out of that situation?
Well, I think increasingly in the short term, renewable energy, clean energy is actually cheaper a lot of places and doesn't come with the downside risk of further emitting carbon dioxide, which warms the planet, or being reliant on supply chains through the Middle East or elsewhere that put our energy security at risk. And I think that's why you've seen in places like Pakistan the proliferation, of solar panels on everyone's house, right? And investments in these technologies. Spain, for example, has a lot of renewable energy and has been able to weather this crisis with the Strait of Hormuz a lot better than some of its neighbors. So I don't know that the trade-off is one that I think that's outdated thinking, frankly, by some policymakers, and something that fossil fuel companies and others push forward.
How problematic is the position that President Trump and his administration takes there in the US?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think it's putting Americans and America at risk by not taking climate change seriously. I think the impacts are here as we're seeing them every day across the United States. And by not investing in science, by not investing in clean energy, by actually paying off wind producers to not put up windmills, all of that is a threat to our security. And if you compare to our number one competitor, China, and the decisions they're making on green energy, the United States is really on the back foot and is really losing here.
OK, Erin Sikorsky, Director of the Centre for Climate and Security. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're back after this short break. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.